Now I think we're recording.
We are now recording. Yeah.
And I'm going to share my screen.
Mhm.
So now can you see a screen that has a fairly complicated looking spreadsheet on it?
Yeah.
Yes, I can.
All right, then I'll make this big enough so that we can see what's happening here. And I'm going to tell you what these numbers mean. So if there's no long number that starts with 9, that means we agreed on whatever. So on sample 2.1 for inner seeing, we all agreed that there was a 1 there.
Mm-hmm.
This cell here, the 9 code is a code that should be thought of as the 9 saying there's something interesting here, and then 2 digits and 2 digits and 2 digits, so that there's 6 digits here, and the order of those 2 digits is Russ, Julian, and Mel.
Mm-hmm.
So what this says is that Russ says 0.5, Julian says 0, and Mel says 0.
Okay.
And this one here is Russ says 1, Julian says 0.5, and Mel says 1.
Okay.
You got that?
Yeah.
You got the code there? So our task is to figure out where it is that we disagree and why, and whether there's something important to understand about the phenomenon. So our goal is not just to agree. Our goal is to refine what we think about as the phenomenon. And basically this is a clue. This says, well, there's something about this phenomenon that Russ at least thought, or maybe he made a mistake, it's possible, that Russ thought he should make a 0.5 and everybody else said no.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at that sample, and I have the purple descriptions.
The purple and green.
Yeah, the
I'm
purple.
gonna open this on my computer because it's a little tricky to read and small.
Okay.
Actually,
I did enjoy your email said something along the lines of, and for your convenience, I've attached this, and when I was doing it, I was like, this is a convenience, thank you.
It's the risk of that is that the more convenient you make it, the more it makes it about the words rather than the experience.
Well,
And that's a risk. It's a risk that's worth taking, it seems sometimes.
Can I ask my classic Mel questions as fast as I can before we get into this? Because I have a couple. One, why do you not have this, I suspect I know the answer, why do you not fill out this grid as you're doing a green meeting? I suspect you're going to say it's because then we're at risk of probably all putting down the same answer as we go. But like when I was doing it, my brain would have liked to sort of do that concurrently as we were having that meeting.
So my logic there is, if the object was to get a proper description, that would probably, or a proper rating. If the object was to get a proper rating, that would probably be good. But what I really want us to do is to get a high fidelity view of these phenomena. And that means that Mel has to have her own private fidelity, and Julian has to have his, and Russ has to have his. And the advantage is that by doing it one of the advantages of doing it in separate occasions is that then Mel forgets what we originally said, and Julian forgets what we originally said, and then comes back and has to do it again, and then forgets, and then comes back and has to do it again. And each time Mel gets infected by her presuppositions or distractions or whatever, and the same for me and Julian. And so the process is coming at it, and then coming at it from a different direction, and then coming at it from a different direction.
Yeah, that makes sense. And one more question. Do you use the same spreadsheet for every single person, or you come up with different, things to rate against based on?
It's different for every individual person. Some of them are the same. The 5 FP are the same.
Yep.
But, for example, we had nothing beyond. That was pretty much a characteristic of Kerry. Other people do that as well, and skillful clarity as well. These characteristics here are the result of, we each wrote our own brief independent characterization, and then we collaborated and put those brief characterizations together into what we thought were the main features, and that has become this.
But so, the grey ones are there for everyone?
The grey ones are there for everybody.
Yeah, because they're like... Yeah.
Because,
okay, that's all my questions.
Okay. The grey ones are there. The grey ones are there for everybody because there's a lot of people who think that DES is about the 5FP, and which it's not, but you got to pay attention to what some people think. So.
What does FP stand for there?
Frequent phenomena.
Oh, gotcha. Yep.
So the 5 frequent phenomena: inner speaking, inner seeing, uncivilized thinking, feelings, and sensory awareness. Sometimes I call inner hearing, put that in there, but it's not really 5. That makes it 6, or whatever.
Gotcha. Okay, as you were. Thank you.
So about sample number 2.1, the question is, why would Russ say as a 0.5 incorporation into reality? And here's the sample. So my recollection of this sample was that she saw her father hiking in front, but there was something about that seemed to be on the trail, in the actual trail. But I wasn't sure about that, so I gave it a 5.5.
Well, why I didn't put anything was I thought it was just way too early in the sampling process to answer that at all. So I thought I don't know, maybe it would have been like a 0.1 or 2 for me, but I just, yeah.
Okay, so what that means is, I think, is that you and I are agreement about the phenomenon. The question is how we should credit the interview about it, or the recitation of it.
Yeah.
And I don't really care about that much. So I would be happy to change my rating to a 0. Guess I don't really care about the ratings. What I care about is the phenomenon. I think we are in agreement in the phenomenon that at least sometimes she puts, she merges together and maybe this is and maybe this is not. Whether we count it is not that important to me.
Yeah, I think I was the same, Julian, of like I doubted this sample enough to count it, but I think with what you're saying there, Russ, that makes sense. So.
Okay. So now is the time when we have to agree on what we're going to do.
We have to agree. Okay.
This is the time of agreement in the counting, because we're not going to have another chance to come back at this. So the question is, should we call it a 0.5 or a 1? And I don't really care. Now that we've talked about it and we know what's at stake, what do we think?
Can I ask what's the end phase here? Does what we code end up as in the final description, the final coding, the final?
Yes, in the sense that we're going to say these there are going to be numbers that appear that are going to be accounts of the thing, and it's going to say inner speaking occurred 14 times or whatever.
Okay.
And we're going to say, in our sample of 39 samples or whatever it is, inner speaking occurred 14 times. We're going to say things like that. But we're also going to say, it's 14, but we're not really sure about some of them, so maybe we should call it 12 and 4 halves, or maybe we should call it whatever. I mean, we're going to try to describe the phenomenon, and our goal is not really to count. It's hardly ever to count. And yet, counting is a useful thing, because we're going to see that there's a lot more inner seeing. There's going to be 14 or 15 inner seeings here. There's a lot more inner seeing than there are feelings. And what does a lot more mean? Well, it's sort of like 15 seeings and 1 feelings, or something like that. So we're going to use numbers. But we don't, what I think we are not, it would be a mistake to try to do some like a significance test on those numbers.
Yeah.
That's not the point.
I think that's what I found challenging about it when I was doing it too. I was like, this feels so concrete. Assigning a number is so serious.
Well, I think of the numbers more or less like I think of the numbers like when we ask participants, well, which was more salient to you and how much more salient? Was it 60-40 or 90-10 or whatever? I don't give a shit about whether it's 60-40 or 90-10, but I do care about whether I mean very slightly more or really lopsidedly more. And 60-40 and 90-10 make that point pretty clearly, it seems to me.
I get why it has to be numbers, but can I just say for me, like something that feels more gentle would be like traffic lights, like green, orange, red. So green, it was present. Orange, it was a little present. Numbers feel scary. But numbers is better for scientific purposes. But
yeah, we could think about that, but what I would say is that for most people, most of the time, they're pretty. They know the difference between 80-20 and 70-30. They intend a distinction between them. Whether that's exactly the same distinction that you would make or that I would make, different story. But
yeah, a distinction can be made.
And the other thing about all the whole process actually is that the object is to get people to confront the samples, to come back to the samples. By confront, I mean look face to face at the samples. And asking somebody, well, did you mean 70-30 or 60-40? I don't give a shit about 70-30 or 60-40, but I do want them to think, well, which is it that, what do I mean by present here?
So the question is, do we think that this was an example of it being incorporated into reality? Well, Julian, I've been a bit convinced now to feel 0.5-y.
Mm-hmm. We could 0.5 it.
I would be happy with 0.5 because at the end of the day, we're going to say something like, Kerry had some samples where inner seeing and external seeing get fused together. And the first sample, we weren't really sure about that. But that will be much easier for us to say if we make this a 0.5 than if we just leave it blank.
Yeah,
okay. We could 0.5.
0.5. There's something there, isn't there?
So I've changed this to 0.5 as if we agreed now. And then, whether this seeing was clear, Russ said it was clear, Julian said it was half clear, and Mel said it was not clear.
I could see a point for it being clear. I'm fine with that. I don't know why I said half clear. Maybe just because we didn't discuss clarity, but...
Yeah, I think I just wasn't paying attention to clarity enough yet.
So we happy with a 1?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds pretty clear to me.
Okay. And then whether there is speaking going on, which was not inner speaking. Is there external speaking? She's speaking aloud.
But speaking, but also that enters her affiliates of consciousness. So, right? Not just that she's speaking aloud.
Well, this is the refinement that we need to make for this category. Do we call any speaking and then soften it by saying, well, sometimes this is not an awareness. Like, what are we going to do about words rolling out? Are there?
Yeah, no, I wasn't. I was only counting it. I thought about this when I did it, and I was only counting speaking as if I thought it was part of the awareness. So, like, words rolling out, or just fact of the matter that she was speaking. I didn't count that. I didn't find that interesting. I only counted speaking as if I thought it was part of her awareness.
Okay. And so what I want to notice here is I think there's going to be no right answer to this discussion, and which means I think one could do it 2 ways. Mm-hmm. One could say speaking occurs on 12 occasions, let's say, and of those 12, only 4 of them were in her awareness. Mm-hmm. If we're going to go that route, then we want to count this as speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, then it's in this particular sample.
Okay.
Is that what you mean?
We could go that route. I guess if we want to count like how many were really in her awareness, we could mark it somehow as we go.
So whether speaking is in awareness? Don't we have a category for that?
Speaking not in, no, for speaking we just have,
No, we just have that, don't we?
we don't have a separate, like, aware speaking. But I feel like this could incorporate, like, rolling out and, like, I feel like this sample is a words rolling out, right?
Well, I think that's the important distinction. It's that speaking as a fact of a matter is a very different thing as speaking words rolling out and speaking where we deem it part of her awareness. Like, they're really different layers. That can't be the same category. They're three different things.
So what we're saying is that we wish we had rated this as having speaking, but also speaking outside of awareness. Is that right?
Yeah. And then outside of awareness, well, words rolling out, are we counting that as in that category?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe we should call this and then if under that logic, then this speaking should have been a 1 and this should have
Correct.
been a 1
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
or maybe a 0.5. We're not actually sure.
Wait, I'm confused. Aren't we still on sample 1? Why are we rating sample 2 already?
No, he just put it in the wrong spot.
Did I put it in the wrong spot?
Yeah, that one there needs to be in the top row. Yep.
So do we think this is words rolling out?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's
I
words
do.
rolling.
Okay. All right.
Wait,
Then
so-
we have fixed
so
our
are-
rating.
Our speaking not inner category means just all speaking, or
Yeah.
it means just speaking
All.
in awareness?
So this is now this category is now going to be all speaking,
Well, do
any speaking.
we want a category for speaking in awareness?
I think we can get that by subtraction. If it's speaking that's not in awareness, then it would be in awareness. If you like, we can have another category with it.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean. That's fine. No need to add too many categories.
Okay. So this is now going to be any speaking not inner.
Yeah.
Yep. And then that later category was when we decide
Right.
whether it was part of awareness or not.
And now this number value here means that somebody, one of us, which I think is probably going to be Julian, wrote a note to himself or to herself about this sample.
Yeah, probably.
And if we go looking for that, here's Julian, and he wrote this note.
Probably seen. So that relates to the overlaid thing.
Okay.
Like I was kind of doubting if it was a scene or overlaid.
Okay.
Yeah, which we addressed, as we're not really sure.
So we're not. So we don't need to agree. We don't need to do anything more about this. Is that right?
Yeah.
And now we're done with sample number 1 because we don't have any 9 codes in here anymore.
Great, that's satisfying.
Okay.
Nice.
And now, Mel, this is now you would have an answer to your first question. Why do we do this again? Well, because we've refined a little bit of categories already.
Yeah,
Looking at
that's true.
one. So if you care about phenomena, you gotta do something like this.
Yeah.
So number 2 has no 9 categories, so we probably don't need to worry about that.
We all agree, that's nice.
We all agree about that one. And then number 3
Oh, looks like a mess.
was a mess. So Julian did not say that this was inner seeing,
Oh, that's a mistake.
but
It's
that's a
nursing.
mistake. And mistakes are frequent because we're doing a lot of ratings, so we're not holding mistakes against people. We're just fixing them. So that's a mistake that we can fix.
Well, speak for yourself, Russ. Julian, I've noted. Mistake.
No.
True enough. So whether there's sensory awareness going on here, this is, I say half a one.
You said half?
I said a half and everybody else said no.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
that's
think
all.
I was quite bullish on sensory awareness in terms of whatever the opposite to bullish is. I was cautious with my sensory awarenessness.
I was cautious too, but I'm fine with half because of the moody dark colors.
My sense is that people, when people describe this, things like that, they're really trying to tell you something about sensory awareness.
Okay, but can we? This is good because I want to clarify my thoughts here because my hesitation comes from. It's a very detailed scene. She's describing the detailed elements of the scene. I don't necessarily think that means she's particularly drawn to the colours or anything like that. That they're like. But if she's just describing a vivid scene, you count that as sensory awareness?
Well, so that's why I gave it a 0.5. It's enough for me to say, this early in sampling, probably there's sensory awareness going on here. She doesn't know how to talk about it. Certainly, it's not enough to say for sure there's sensory awareness. So I'm totally in agreement with about that. But it seems like she's given a more detailed description than just. I'm trying to tell you what the scene was. The scene was here.
Because Russ, you say that people can be shy to talk about sensory awareness.
Right. A lot of people take 2 or 3 days to figure out that they can talk about sensory awareness.
How do you mean in terms of they would just describe, like, I'm seeing whatever it is that she was describing here without getting into the colours?
Right.
Really?
A lot of people who have sensory awareness don't start identifying sensory awareness until like the 3rd sampling day.
Okay, well that
And I think it's because maybe people think it doesn't matter. Oh, that's one possibility. And another possibility is that the sensory awareness is very close to sexual awareness. This is what you are attending to, what you are attracted to. Yes, exactly. What you're attracted to. And people are shy about telling you, for good reason, shy about telling you what they're attracted to.
That's very interesting.
And,
All right, well, I'm convinced now. I'm happy with the 0.5.
so we good for a 0.5 and sensory awareness?
Yeah.
And then Russ said this was a clear inner seeing.
Well, some parts had skillful clarity.
Yeah.
So I kind of thought of those as opposite. If something had skillful clarity, it wasn't clear.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
So let me tell you what my logic there is. Skillful clarity for me is usually there's one part of it or some part of it that is not clear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That this is a clear image with an unclear example, and the my way of thinking about this goes back to a fairly early thing where a student was saying she was offended by her roommate because her roommate's too loose with boys, and so she has a picture of her roommate sitting on a couch wearing a bra and panties, sitting next to a guy, and the roommate and particularly her bra and panties are clear, but the guy is sort of featureless. Because and what she's trying to convey is there's a lot of guys who are in this position, doesn't matter. But she does this kind of stuff. That's my quintessential skillful clarity deal. And I would say this is a clear image with the parts that need to be unclear made unclear skillfully.
Damn, he's good, Julian. He convinces me every time.
I'll go with that. I see that, especially for the one which is a super clear room, but it has some blurry photos. I would definitely call that clear with some, yeah. So by that logic.
The alternative is that there we will see, maybe not with Kerry, I can't remember, probably not with Kerry, but some people just don't have clear images. They have it's visual, but the whole thing is just not very clear and not very detailed. then that would go as not clear.
But this one, I still, like I see that for some samples which have certain unclear elements, but it seems like this one is mostly unclear. Like the text is blurry or indistinct. The colors are kind of like a wash. The only really clear parts are the edges of the slide, right?
But it's also got very distinct colours, like her descriptions, you know, it's got black with hints of royal blue and red, like there's fine line.
There's a fine line.
I'm with Russ on this. I think it's clear with skillful clarity, especially this early in the piece.
Okay, I won't object then.
So we're going to change this to a 1?
Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm okay.
And then this is the discussion we already had. Change this to a 0.5?
Yeah, I'm okay with 0.5, yeah.
And then we have now clarified our thinking about speaking. So Kerry is saying aloud, that's so nice.
Yeah, and I consider this words rolling out, which is why I hadn't included it. But based on our new distinction, well, there is speaking here.
So outside of awareness or just slightly in awareness?
Yeah, I think it's fully outside of awareness, to be honest. But I'm happy with a 0.5 if everyone wants to meet in the middle.
So in the DES world, if this is outside of her awareness, then it should have been inside the brackets.
Yeah. But I think it seemed like one of those cases where like it might have been experienced.
Yeah, it's day 2. I don't think anyone knew yet.
I'm not quite sure.
0.5?
Yeah, I'm happy with a 0.5.
So this is this category over here. I don't have quite enough screen. We're on sample number 3, so this should be 0.5. And then focus on a face.
I'm the only one who put that. Because I went back to the video and I was convinced that she was looking at the face because I asked like anything in particular, and she was very clear, like his smile. I was seeing his smile, trying to figure out.
So in degree meaning, it looks like we would have gone up 0.5.
Yeah, but so that's when I went back and looked at the interview. I was like, it seems like the face was part of experience, and not. Yeah.
So 0.5 or 1. Mel and I missed it.
We could.
When,
I mean, for me, I thought it was convincing. But since we could 0.5 it, since I'm the only one who thought that.
and then seeing. By seeing, we mean external seeing, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, and if she's looking at the face, then that is external.
Yeah, I mean, if Julian's including face, well, then there has to be seeing that kind of one without the other there.
So she's perhaps looking at Evan, so that would be a seeing, I guess.
There's an element of seeing, yeah. What did I do? 0.5. What did
So
you do?
0.5-ish? Happy with that?
Yeah, I think we got to meet in the middle there, don't we?
But yeah, I'm curious if you watch that part again, though, in that section, if you would think it's more of a 1. But we could leave that for now. So the multiple.
And the multiple,
0.5. Because if she was seeing his face and had the and was seeing the slide like the.
I'm buying that. I'm buying
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
It's the 0.5.
Yeah.
And then we're done with that sample.
Okay.
Interesting.
Sample number 3.1 is where we're going to next. And about skillful clarity, Mel gave it a 1 and the rest of us gave it a 0.5.
Oh, right. One of them was less. Katie was blurry and less detail. Why did we give it 0.5? That does seem like. Oh, I guess I was thinking like it would be skillful if there was a reason for Katie to be less blurred,
Well,
or maybe she just hadn't filled in the picture, like filled in her inner seeing. Like maybe she was adding more detail or something.
Well, that would be possible, particularly if she were 10 years old as opposed to 25 or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know why I gave this a 0.5. I would give it a 1 today.
I think it's a 1.
could go with 1. Wasn't there vaguely something like Katie? The relationship with Katie was different. Like she didn't know Katie as well.
Katie was somehow mad at Sam.
Oh,
Yeah, there you
right.
go. That
Katie
detail
was
alone
mad at
says
Sam.
skillful clarity.
But then why wouldn't Katie be less blurry and look mad?
Oh, maybe she's shitty at Katie, and so she's not including her in a scene.
Yeah, I think we should have given it a 1. And this is the same discussion we've had about clarity, I'm
Yeah.
guessing.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be the one screwing up that rating the whole way through, but I'm with you now.
So that
Yep.
finishes sample 3.1.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Sample 3.2, Julian says nothing beyond, and I say it's clear.
Oh, I said nothing beyond because like there's nothing outside of the ad. It's not like a scene.
This description doesn't make it clear whether there's anything beyond it or not.
Yeah.
But I would be happy to go with 0.5 because
Yeah,
we're not describing anything more.
I agree. I think there's 0.5 there, Julian, for sure.
So what would be beyond it? Okay, that's what do you call that? A natural attitude question. Like I don't see there being anything beyond the ad, but I guess we didn't specifically ask about it.
Right. I don't think we really know, but I'm happy to go with 0.5.
Okay. 0.5.
Yep. What do we got next?
And by your definition of clear, we could put that clear. I was still in the mode of thinking that the skillful clarity and clear were kind of different things.
So why is this clear if we say this?
Really saw blurrily, unarticulated. Yeah, I agree. I think that's why I was like,
It seems to me this is unclear. This is uniformly unclear. She's sort of seeing it, but sort of not seeing it. Seeing enough.
Yeah, I hadn't read it back closely enough. So then, yeah.
So this should be a 0,
Yeah,
which in our world is blank.
right.
And we're done with 3.2.
Uh-huh.
And then 3.3, we agree on the phenomena. Mel doesn't say that this is some maybe seeing.
I think this is going to come down to our categories there.
Oh yeah, about seeing the trail.
Really,
I wouldn't go lower than 0.5 on it.
yeah, but I think the reason why I didn't do this was because I just didn't really believe, like jury was out for me about whether it was a fact of life. or whether it was part of her experience. I'm happy with a 0.5 though.
Okay. So one of the things what this kind of conversation makes clear to me is that the quality of the interviews changes across time. We know more about what we're talking about on day 9 than we did on day 3, and that's just the way it is. And so the errors around every one of these ratings probably is shrinking as we go.
Yeah.
And from the standpoint of measurement, that's really difficult. From the standpoint of trying to define a phenomenon or describe a phenomenon, I don't see that as a problem at all. That's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
So now the question is whether there's multiple experience here. And I guess if we buy the fact that she's seeing the trail, and that's an experience, then that should be a 0.5 as well.
Yeah, that was my...
Fine.
So it's the weakest kind of multiple experience there is.
Yeah, correct, exactly.
Yes.
I'll allow it, but it's...
It's weak.
Not very
I'm
interesting.
not impressed.
Right. I'm with you.
It's not bulimia.
And that does it for number 3.3.
Mm-hmm.
3.4. This is going to be a clarity issue.
Yeah, I remember this. This felt clear to me. She was always so clear about that dog and its expression. And
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
totally
I'd,
clear.
I'd say clear. I was just sometimes lazy with that category.
yeah, I know. I think I was too.
And now
Oh yeah, and this is a words roll.
this is one of these where we're going to give yes, there are words,
Yeah.
and 0.5 as to whether there was just rolling out.
Yeah.
Everybody buying that?
Yeah.
0.5 for the... It's unclear whether she directly experienced the ceiling.
Yeah.
Later on in sampling, we probably would have been able to figure that out. But
Yeah, sure. And then what else? What's that?
and speaking other than semantic. My guess, so I gave this a 0.5, and basically I'm guessing that I'm now going to give this a blank because we now have this category over here.
Yeah, that was your words rolling outness.
Right.
Yeah. Cool.
Onward, so I should save this.
Good idea.
Okay. 4.1. And Mel says half of an inner speech
Oh, interesting.
and half of an inner hearing.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what reading counted as. I think I wrote in the notes something about reading because I didn't know how to code that.
Well, yeah, she said reading aloud, mostly hearing those words. So that's where my confusion comes from. So I've split the difference there.
Okay.
But yeah, but it depends on whether we think that this is referring to reading, yeah, right, reading aloud as in out loud and then hearing out loud. I interpreted that as reading aloud in her head and then hearing those in her head. If that distinction is clear.
What did I code this as? Speaking? Because she's speaking out loud?
No, you've all gone 0 for everything.
Wait, but did I code it as speaking later?
Oh, speaking. I can't see. Yeah.
put speaking.
You've done speaking.
Put speaking. Mostly hearing.
So, without going back and looking at the sample, I would say I would use aloud only for words that were actually out there in the environment. But I also recognize that for some people, there is the experience of reading aloud, even though that's an inner speaking.
And I swear we've had that with Kerry before. because there are times where I go, oh, that means out loud, and then it's like, oh no, she's saying out loud in her head. We've definitely had that.
Right, I think you're right.
But I think this one was literally out loud. I think I went back to check the transcripts.
So yeah, that's just that. If it's literally out loud, then that changes my thing, because my confusions come from thinking that's out loud in her head and then hearing that in her head.
No, I think it was the literal out loud, which is why I called it speaking, and then in the notes I think I wrote a separate category for hearing, like actually hearing.
So, Mel, you happy with this as a nothing?
Yeah, sure.
And this is a nothing? Because it's...
Yeah. Both as nothings, but I also feel like this feels like one of those ones where either our description's inadequate or the interview is inadequate.
Right. Or both.
Yeah.
So, Annie speaking, now we think this is a 1.
Oh, yeah.
And speaking other than semantic.
Well, no, I disagree there. That it's got to be 0. It's clearly semantic.
And this is Julian's note about
Hearing.
Hearing.
Reading, hearing, not... Yeah, you put that in us. That must be out loud. I would also then argue that the... Oh no, that's speaking outside of awareness. Yeah, because I was going to say, this is speaking in her awareness then.
Which sample number is this again?
4.1.
4.1.
So we think this should be a 1? Is that what you're saying, Mel?
Well, no, the opposite. That's speaking outside of awareness. I think this is speaking within her awareness.
Okay.
So it's a 0.
Yeah.
Julian looks like he's ferociously reading the sample.
Yeah, I went back to the transcript, and yeah, this is actually out loud,
Okay.
not in her head.
Yep. And then I think that's in her awareness, so there's nothing in that green category. Okay, I'm happy.
But do we want a category for hearing? Like,
that's our general sense is, are we going to say anything? The general question is, would it say anything interesting about Kerry to have a category called hearing?
That's what I think.
well, not super interesting, but if she was hearing it,
I don't think it's a very... I mean, sure, you can do it if you want, but I don't think it's a very common phenomena for her. I think for me it would be really different, but I think for her that's going to pop up once, twice.
There are a lot of things that we could say about Kerry that we're not going to say. This is one of those, it seems to me. I'm happy to have a category for hearing, but it's...
I don't think there's enough of a value add with it, personally. Yeah. But Julian, fight!
Well, okay, we conceptualize speaking as like, speaking might involve a bit of also hearing what's spoken. I think that's fine. We don't need a separate category for hearing. If that makes sense.
And my thinking about that is that for most people, most of the time, it's pretty difficult to extricate completely hearing from speaking when you're speaking aloud.
Yeah.
Or even innerly, for that matter. But there's no question about that exterior speaking at least sometimes involves hearing.
Well, with that understanding, I don't think we need another category then.
I don't think so.
If you put headphones on somebody and then they speak, they generally speak louder than they do without the headphones. So they're definitely, people when they're speaking, they're getting feedback coming in through their ears. And if you block their ears, then they compensate.
Yeah, but I think the category is interesting when it comes, when we've discussed before, like active seeing and active hearing. Like, right. I think that's an interesting category, but I don't think it's relevant for Kerry.
I agree.
All right.
Number 2, I say inner speaking, and you all say half an inner speaking.
Where's your cursor? There you go.
Why have we given that a 0.5 when it looks very clearly 1 right now? Kerry was asking in her own inner voice. That seems like a 1 to me.
Well, I feel like the shared screen froze for me because I can't see the full descriptions and the cursor.
Oh, that's
I
annoying.
feel like that froze for me somehow.
Can you see it, Kerry? Or Mel?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you.
So it must be your...
I don't know
Your
how to help you,
internet,
Julian.
I could reload everything, and then the recording will stop. That's okay. Yeah, maybe I refresh my screen.
I think you have
Because
to.
right now, are all the purple, the green and purple, is that the window that's in front?
Yes.
Okay, not for me. So,
So I can move the green and purple around.
no, nothing's moving. It's just completely frozen. Let
Yeah, I think you have
me
to refresh.
refresh. All right. Let's start recording. So, inner speaking is the question.
Yeah, and it looks pretty much like...
Would it be an issue to go higher?
Oh, hang on, I know why. Because I put this as a 0.5 on inner speaking and inner hearing. And Julian, you've done the same. So I think we've split the difference, unsure about whether it was inner hearing or speaking.
Yeah, that's exactly it, yeah.
I've done the same thing as you there. Simultaneously, Kerry was asking in her own voice, would it be an issue? Well, I don't know without going further back into the transcripts as to whether that's a... I mean, the way we phrase that, asking in her own inner voice, I'd have to take that as inner speaking more than hearing based on that language.
I would
So
guess
in the green meeting, we must have left that undetermined. So I'm guessing I should change this to 0.5 to agree with you all.
And I'm happy to split the difference there. But yeah, that's clearly what
And then
you're
inner
saying.
hearing should be 0.5.
Yeah. I see the logic, Julian. What have I got? Nothing beyond. So nothing beyond for me, and I might have interpreted this category wrong, was in terms of it's just like an object in a scene as opposed to a full scene. So like I was going, this is just a Subaru, but are you doing nothing beyond as in opacity? Like,
For me, it was different because the Subaru was over the real world. Like, for me, the incorporated into reality kind of negated nothing beyond. Like, nothing beyond was for the fridge, whereas really just the fridge. Or, I don't know, yeah, stuff like that.
So that was my logic too. I'm agreeing with Julian about that. And but this is the sense in which it doesn't matter. What the numbers don't matter. We could say we are going to call this a 0 for nothing beyond, and then we could say it is the case. And when we're giving the descriptions of Kerry, we're going to say when she superimposes her stuff, most of the time it's nothing beyond. But I don't even think that's true. Like in the yurt scene, I think there might have been some of both.
Superimposes is a nice word. I don't know why we haven't been using that a lot. That's a great way to describe this phenomenon, I think. So, like, that's how I was thinking. This Subaru is superimposed in the real scene. So we've all agreed on that. It's incorporated into reality. But so when she superimposes something, like an object into a scene, I do that as nothing beyond. She's just brought in this
Because
thing
it's just the object.
into that. There are other examples where she creates a scene.
So this is
Bringing an object.
So this is where the definitions are fairly arbitrary, I think. I think Julian, and I would agree with Julian in this, would say what makes nothing beyond interesting is when you're seeing an object, and it's just the object, and there's nothing else other than the object, and that's it as far as the inner seeing is concerned.
Yeah.
In the superimposition, then you take that kind of an object and put it into the scene. So I think there's no answer to this question, but there's also no phenomenological difference here.
Yeah.
The only thing that's at issue is how you count it. We're in an entire agreement in the phenomenon. The phenomenon is she's got an inner seeing. The inner seeing has nothing else other than the object, and it's superimposed into the real world. We all 100% agree with that.
And it's incorporated into reality. Yeah.
Right.
That's the more interesting bit. Yeah.
And that's to my way of looking at it why the numbers are not that particularly important. The numbers give us the impetus to talk about these things, but whether we call it nothing beyond or not, I don't really give a shit.
And it's also why I found the numbers stressful.
They are stressful.
Yeah. I'm happy to go 0 here if you want, because I agree. It's like, it doesn't really matter. The more interesting thing here is they're incorporated into reality.
And we gave that a 1.
Yeah, so I'm fine with that. Skillful clarity.
Is there anything blurry here?
I guess my skillful clarityness was the fact that she incorporates it into reality, but that's blurring into that category, isn't it?
Well, you and Russ both gave it a 1, but I don't. For me, I thought we were doing the blurry thing for skillful clarity.
Well, I think there's skillful clarity involved in incorporating it into reality in the way that she has here. But I'm also hearing what you're saying, Julian. Then just do that category as that, and skillful clarity being more on the focus.
I think it depends on whether you emphasize the skillful of skillful clarity or the clarity of skillful clarity.
I think it's definitely skillful, for sure.
And that's why I think Mel and I gave it a 1. But I'm happy to give it a 0 and recognize that the incorporation into reality is the skillful.
Yeah,
is
I'm
the
okay
skillful
with that
aspect. You happy with that, Mel?
Yeah. What have we got here? Julian's got multiple.
Multiple. So Julian says multiple.
Because of the asking in her own inner voice and the seeing the Subaru. And it's about completely different things. It's not like she's talking about a Subaru. She's talking about her invoices.
I'm buying it.
Yeah, I'm okay with that then.
Should be a 1. All right, on to number... And I say incorporate it into reality halfway for number 3.
Let's see that.
Drawn to the twinkly greenness. But this is a sensory, like she's looking at an actual tree.
Yeah, that's a sensory awareness. I don't know why I said that.
Yeah, that feels like a mistake.
And then it is seeing. There's no question about it. It's seeing. Mel was the only one who remembered that. A 1 for seeing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought of seeing as non-sensory awareness seeing. But I now see seeing as like kind of the broader
Okay.
thing. Sensory awareness is the more specific.
And what have we got? Multiple experiences.
Multiple. You all said yes, and I said no, but we're in agreement that this is if...
Well, if you're taking the sensory awareness aspect, then it's got to be 2, because there's inner speaking and then...
Right. I'm buying that. It should be 1. All right. I don't think we're going to make it to the end of day 4.
Yeah, no, I'm conscious of the time for Russ.
So, shall we decide when we're going to do this again, or if we're going to do this again?
Yep.
Yeah.